Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. It is episode number 18 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. I am your host, Mr. Neil LaFortune, all the way from Orillia, Ontario, Canada, in the drum room, but we are moving. The drum room is going to be moving today out into a recently renovated garage, soundproofed. It's going to be amazing. Everyone has worked hard here on it except for me. But I have been working hard putting together this episode and all of the other episodes, and I'm really happy to have today's guest. I'm excited to be speaking to Mr. Sam Aliano all the way from Melbourne, Australia. A little bit of history about Sam. He grew up in Australia, moved to the United States to take lessons and to study with such greats as Joe Morello, Frank Katz, Joe Bergamini, Anton Fig, and Dom Famularo to become the triple threat drummer that he is today. He is a performer, educator, and session drummer and Gretsch artist. I am going to send Sam to join me here. I'm going to turn up the volume, make sure. Yay, there we go. Sam!
Neil, how are you, mate?
I'm great. How are you? That was so easy.
I know it worked. I printed the instructions that you gave to me, and we got it happening. How are you, mate? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being on. Can you hear me okay?
I can, and just let me raise this volume here or something.
Yeah, I can move. I'm just doing the iPad here. Hey, there we go.
I'm good. How are you, mate?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for still being up at 11 p.m. Is it Melbourne you're in?
Yeah, mate. It's 11 p.m. and it's Thursday night still.
Thursday, and it's Thursday morning here just after 9 in the morning, and this is amazing. I appreciate you being so great with the preparation and being so easy to get to ask questions of, and for being on this. And at 11 o'clock at night, you probably would rather be sleeping, but I'm happy you're here, and thanks so much.
No worries, Neil. Thank you, man.
I have been aware of you for the last few years since becoming a Gretsch endorser. I would cruise through the endorser, the artists, and go, oh yeah, I've heard of Sam Aliano, but I thought he was Australian, but why is he in Los Angeles, and why is he with Slack, and why is he doing it, and holy smokes, can this guy ever play? So I want to go back to the beginning and ask you, like, when did music start for you? When did the drums enter your life?
All right, mate. Early age. I was 5 years old.
Wow.
I come from a musical family. So I got two older sisters and an older brother that both played instruments and music. My older sister sang. My second elder sister played piano and piano accordion. I'm Italian, right? So we were playing ethnic music growing up. We were in a dance band and stuff like that. So when I was 5 years old, I was taking lessons and doing gigs. And to be honest, I haven't stopped ever since.
That is crazy. 5 years old? Now, what did you learn in the early lessons? What were you shown when you were 5 years old?
I got taught how to read and write music straight away. And it was really funny. One of my first teachers was a school in Melbourne, Marciano Music School, and straight away he was learning me how to play jazz. I didn't even know to spell it or say it, but we would listen to the music and we'd try to play it, and then he would write out some notation, try and learn it, and then it just grew from there.
That's amazing. So did you have a natural affinity? You must have, because I imagine a lot of young kids, I teach some 4.5, 5-year-olds, and their attention span is usually, I can't imagine playing. But then again, we're a similar age, and I think you were probably more apt to listen to the teacher then, or your parents would give you a talking to, right?
Well, I think it was probably a bit of everything, mate, because we were playing as a band. I call it the Italian Partridge Family growing up. That's what it was. But we had gigs every weekend.
Wow.
And they were, local gigs. Sometimes they were interstate gigs. And this country is big. And we didn't do fly dates. We drove. So sometimes, there was a few gigs in the early days that we would drive 8 or 9 hours to go to another state, do the gig, and come home. And when I say we drive, my father used to drive. And he used to unpack or pack our stuff, unload the car, set up the instruments, and unpack it and carry it himself. And
wow.
So we did that for years and years. I had no choice, but I didn't want to play and make a fool out of myself, whatever. And then when you got older siblings that are good at what they do, they kind of set the benchmark there, and and I don't know any different.
Wow, what an environment to grow up in. And I had the opposite, where I had siblings that played. They were half siblings, and we didn't live together. But when I to play, I was nearly 19 years old when I started to play drums. So you have such a tremendous advantage. My son has been playing since he was 2, because he's been his whole life, and he's crazy good. Now, what kind of music were you playing with the Partridge Family Band here?
It's simple. It's an Italian dance band. So we'll do our gigs will either be weddings, Australian weddings, Italian weddings, sometimes Italian Greek, because a lot of mixed cultures here, where sometimes you'll get 2 bands. And look, in the early days, it was great because I would learn how to play different genres of music without really knowing what it was.
Oh, man.
Tangos, cha-chas, biguini, samba, all of that stuff, I was playing when I was 5. Good or bad, I was playing it. And then later on, it was really funny because I remember, fast forward 15 years, I was working with this kind of famous Australian artist called Vanetta Fields, and we did a gig, and I never forget, she did this song, and she's like, no, can you please change the beat? I want this type of thing. And I played a beat of a song that I did when I was 5 years old. And she's like, that's it. And I laughed because it's like, I can't believe it. I've been playing this groove for like 15 years, and that's what she wanted. So it all comes back. It all comes back at some stage,
I love playing those styles. And I didn't get into that stuff until I was in my 20s, and my mom used to sit across the basement, and I'd play along with a Dave Hassel, an English educator, his package that had all kinds of different styles, from the tangos to swing to all of these. I'm like, this is really fun, because I got really tired of just playing rock and playing eighth notes, and I wanted something that had a different flavor. Now, you did that for several years, you said. Now, did you get tired of playing with the family band, or how did
hang on, I got tired in other ways. I got physically tired. I was so young that I used to fall asleep playing drums. Now, I wouldn't believe it. If it wasn't me, I wouldn't believe the story. Simple as that. My father, he used to come like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and we would finish gigs at 11:30, 12 o'clock. That was the norm. He would be next to me with the drumstick, poking me on the side so I wouldn't fall asleep.
That's crazy.
And like I said, if it didn't happen, I wouldn't believe it. But no, we're a tight unit. My brother and sisters, and they don't play that much no more. But no, we're close. We rarely had fights over music. Nah, not at all.
What's the age difference with the siblings?
Oldest, it's all 2 years apart. But me, my older sister's like 7 years, and then it just drops 2, then drops another 2, then it's me, and then I got a younger sister, but she wasn't in the band, but she was our biggest supporter.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it was good.
So what happened? What kind of music and who did you play with after the family band?
So the family band lasted from the age of 5 years old till I moved to America. Right? So I on and off. So I moved to America when I was 29 officially.
Okay.
So, but in between the family bands, I always went out and did other gigs. So, because my brother was the boss of the band, it'd be like, his name's Joe. I'm like, oh, Joe, look, I'm going to do another gig this week. I'll come and do your first set. Go do my other gig. If I make it back, I'll make it back. Otherwise, I'll give you a fill-in drummer, whatever. And he was cool. So I had the best of both worlds. When I didn't have uh, an outdoor gig or something going on, I would play with the family band. Otherwise, I was blessed to pick and choose. But from 15, I'm going to say 14, 15 onwards, then I was playing funk. I was in funk bands. I was in big bands. I was in jazz bands. I was in Latin bands, cover bands, just tribute bands. And,
Yeah.
just trying to make a living.
That's amazing. What was the scene like in Australia? It's in Melbourne then. It sounded like it was amazing.
It was hot. I mean, it was great before the pokies came in, or the slot machines, I think you call them, or the cabaret. It was fantastic because I remember Virgil was playing at a club called the Grain Store, which no longer exists, or it does, but it's a strip bar now, I think. But I would be able to see him play and then finish and go see another local, drum great play. The venues and music was, it was great. There was a lot of guys playing, and a lot of venues were supporting that music or live music. And then I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, the pubs started getting revenue from slot machines. And then they started bringing the slot machines in. Cut a long story short, it just killed the live music scene, and it became hard. And then 2001, I disappeared. I went to America until a few years ago. We'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, so
that's unbelievable. Now, did you study or did you play mostly? Did you take lessons? Did you know? So this is Virgil Donati you're speaking of, correct?
Yeah. So Virgil was a local. He was a Melbourne boy, and growing up, I mean, that guy was amazing. When he was a kid, he started playing when he was 2 or 3, and there's footage of him, and he was amazing then, let alone now. So every chance he would play, I had to go see him, and there was guys like Graham Morgan, who was Virgil's teacher, who's still alive, he's a great drummer. He's an Australian legend, and guys like Darren Ferrugia.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of Darren, but he's great too. There's Jerry Pentazis. There's so many cats that are unbelievable here, still doing their thing.
That's amazing.
And they're all still playing. And once COVID is out and over the way, out of the way with, we'll go and see him play again. But yeah. So I always had lessons. I've never not had drum lessons. I'm a strong believer of you're a student for life. So even though when I started having drum lessons when I was 5, probably got really serious when I was a bit older, in my teens. There's one guy called Frank Corniola who owns a drum school here and shop called Drum Tech. He's responsible for the Ultimate Drummers Day weekend.
Yeah.
So that's our equivalent to the Modern Drummer Festival or Montreal Drum Fest.
Yep.
And he taught me how to really play. He was a big mentor. I had lessons. I started going to lessons off him. I think I was 16, and when I was 16, I thought I was all right. I thought I was really good. And I remember my first drum lesson with him. He's like, "Hey man, you're kind of holding your sticks wrong." And I looked at him. I'm like, "What?" And then it just grew from there. He knows everything and anything about drumming. That's why he's so successful, and he's built an empire here, which is huge. It's world renowned. Every drummer knows about it. Every drummer knows about Drum Tech and the festival that happens. And then Frank, also as an educator, he's written books. His books are part of the Australian syllabus of music when you study VCE, when you do exams, and all of that. So, again, fast track a few years, and the drum books that I've released,
Mm.
they're based around what I've been shown and what I've been taught. I'm not saying the content, but the structure. I'm a simple guy. I like things simple and straight to the point. And his books are like that. And he's got a book called Rhythm Section Drumming that everyone has studied off. And it's a great book, and pretty much it builds and teaches you how to play with the rhythm section, drums and bass.
That is awesome. I am a drum
Yeah.
junkie. I have many
Yep.
books and have practiced out of a lot. And like you, I continue to study as well. And you have to. And I love it because I wake up motivated, and through those lessons, I become inspired. Just talking to you makes me want to, man, I want to get down and practice. And I had a look at your book that you sent me, and wow, that is some great stuff. That to develop that left hand.
Yeah.
And then to put, it's going to
Yeah.
be, I can't wait to dig into that, and I appreciate you sending me that. Now, you went to the States because things were, maybe the opportunities were less prevalent than before?
It's a funny story. It's like, I always wanted to go there, right? And there's a part of you that feels like, yeah, I'm going to crush it. Then there's another part of you that's like, what the hell are you thinking? In it was 96, Don Familaro came to Australia, and he did a drum festival. He played this festival. And I was a teacher at the drum school. And Frank Corniola, he asked me, he's like, listen, you want to help out at the Drummers Day? I'm like, yeah, of course. Hang out with, Dom or Verge or whoever the other guest was. And we had everyone from, Greg Bissonette. I'm going blank, but everyone's done it. Thomas Lang, like just everyone. So my job for the weekend was to look after Don Familaro.
Oh,
hang out with him, and help him set up his drum kit. And I did that, and we became friends. And he's like, "Listen, what do you do?" I said, "I play a bit of drums." He's like, "You any good?" I said, "I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm all right." And I'm like, "Listen, I'm coming to America," and I had no idea how big and how wide, and even where the States were back then. This is 96. I'm like, look, I'm coming to America. I've got an auntie that lives in New Jersey. And I'd love to come and see you. Can I have some drum lessons? And he's like, yeah. And he gave me his business card. And much to his surprise, a few months later, I went to America, and I called him up, and he's like, "Hey, Sal, you made it, whatever, blah blah." I said, "Yep." I said, "I'm in a place called East Hanover, in New Jersey, and I want to get some lessons off you." I go, "Where are you?" And he goes, "Long Island." And I'm like, "Where's that?" It's like, "It's a couple hours away from where you are." He goes, "But I got one of my students who's a great drummer. I think you should team up with him first and then come and see me." I said, "No problem. What's his name?" And he said, "Joe Bergamini." I'm like, "Joe Bergamini, good, no worries." And I said, "I'll get in contact with Joe first. We'll do some playing." And he goes, "Get in contact with Joe. He can prep you up and you can come and see me." See it, no worries. So I called up Joe. Mate, you wouldn't believe it. It was one street behind where I was staying. He picked me up. And remember, they know me as, or back then they knew me as Don Familaro's drum tech. Right, so no one's heard me play, which is fine. It was cool. And so Joe brought me to his house, went to his basement. Joe's always been, he's an amazing player, but he's always had his shit together, that guy.
Yes.
Always, from every aspect, even his setups. He had, Joe was a huge Neil Peart fan, so he had a Neil Peart drum kit set up just for display. Couldn't touch it. And then two multiple kits. He gave me a lesson. We started playing, and I'll never forget, his jaw just dropped, and he's like, "Hang on a second." He went upstairs. He called, I think it was Don Familaro, saying, "Mate, have you heard this kid play?" And we became lifetime friends ever since. I continued hanging out with Joe because I was in America for about 6 months. So, and we were neighbors, like I said. He showed me a lot of things. He showed me the ropes around the States, or at least around the East Coast. Brought me to all these drum stores. He brought me to the Collective,
Wow.
introduced me to like so many people. And then I met up with Dom, and Dom's like, "Hey, what the hell happened in Jersey?" And then we just became unbelievable friends. And he's a great mentor. And his book, The Cycle of Self-Empowerment, I think that's the title, is unbelievable. That I got along, well, not along, I always got along with Dom, but that book changed my life. And speaking to him one-on-one about it was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to get my shit together, and I want to go and live in America. And then through the help of Joe and Dom, I got to have lessons with Joe Morello, which was incredible.
Wow.
I don't know how much money I had back in '96, but they all went on lessons. And then I was with Joe, and I booked days with Joe Morello, you know, not just hours, days. You know, I bought out days and just to hang out and play. And back then he allowed me to do some video footage of the lessons, which was unbelievable. And then I went to the Collective, and Joe helped me put a day together and a few days. And then Frank Katz, Michael Lauren, all that type of stuff was great, learning off them. And then as a bit of a bonus, I don't know how it happened, but Anton Fig came into the picture.
Wow.
And he invited me down to the Letterman show. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of the Letterman show. I might go. That's how green I was. And but I had no way to get there. So I called Joe, and I go, Joe, listen, man, I've got a ticket or a couple of tickets to go see Anton Fig at the show. You want to come? He's like, hell yeah. So we went down together, and I never forget, it was the first time that the band was doing 2 shows in one day. And the guest back then was Bill Cosby on one show, and then Adam Sandler had no idea who he was.
Wow.
Now you got to understand, we were in the green room, so I'll never forget. Adam Sandler, he looked at me, he goes, "You a guest?" I said, "No, mate, I'm a friend of the drummers." He goes, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "What do you do?" And he, I swear to God, his eyes were like, "Damn, this idiot doesn't know who I am."
That's awesome.
And he's like, "I've got a movie that just came out called Happy Gilmore." Oh, I said, "Oh, cool." That was my claim to fame with with Adam Sandler. Threw me a Coke. We had a Coke. But Paul Schaefer in the band was unbelievable. And Anton Fig's groove, my God, man. It was just, it was great. And look, he never gave me drum lessons as far as this is a rock beat, this is what you do with it. But the stories he had, and just simple things like, you know, pay special attention to this tuning, or the way you count off these songs, and the way this feels, was just as good as anything else.
Yeah.
And it was great. And then he's from South Africa, so, you know, another Commonwealth country. So having the same type of, you know, growing up playing cricket, and, you know, and being under the Commonwealth back then, and whatever it is, we just got along, and it was great to see.
Wow.
So in '96, I said that, yeah, I'm done. I reckon I can come and live here, but New York and Jersey is not for me, because I'm not a jazz cat.
Okay.
At least that's how I felt back then. Oh, and I do want to mention through Joe Bergamini, I went on another holiday in 2000, and I think it was, and he goes, "Sam, I'm going to drive you up to the Montreal Drum Festival." I said, "Yeah, that's awesome." I said, "How long is it going to take?" And he goes, 10 hours. I'm like, "What the hell?" And he goes, "I'm going to bring a couple of my students, but it's all right. They're good kids. You know, they're good kids." I said, "Yeah, all right." And one of them was Mark Giuliano.
Yep.
So I'll never forget the whole trip up. Joe Bergamini's driving. I'm in the front seat. Mark Giuliano's at the back. He's got, back then, you know, like a DVD player? He's got a DVD player with the cassette and a lead plugged into Joe's stereo. And all he's doing is watching Vinnie Colaiuta. And to this day, we still talk about this story. Watching Vinnie Colaiuta And I think Vinny did some, I think it was a Modern Drummers Day performance or something like that.
Yeah.
And he does this amazing drum fill. He rewinded that thing for 10 hours. It was unbelievable. It was the funniest thing. And you know, so that was a big part of planting the seed, as they say, for a future. You know, for when I went to live there, basically to kind of set in stone some of that stuff.
But you chose California instead.
Yeah, I chose California. The reason why I chose California was sometimes when bands will come here, like then when Virgil left and lived overseas, he came back and he was touring here. And Virgil never really used to teach here, like private lessons. His thing was, you know, he'll do drum clinics or drum camps and stuff like that. And I used to go to as many as I could. But then one day he was touring here with, I think it was Rick Fiorabracci and Frank Gambale. And again, through Drum Tech and some people knew that I wanted to make a move there. And they're like, Virgil's in town, man, just go speak to him. And I did. And he said, look, if you want to do it, just do it. It's as simple as that. You know, just be prepared for whatever happens. And I was blessed. He became a really close friend. And when I moved there in 2001, I think it was, I actually stayed with a family that put him up when he first moved there.
Wonderful.
So down in West Hollywood, so it was pretty good. But then I had made some friends through that whole scene and circuit with Verge, and you know, like when Vital Information come out, and I had known Steve Smith on and off for a long time, but he came out with Vital Information, and then you know, you start to meet some of his musicians, and then Frank Gambale played a track on my album. I released an album in 2000, and yeah, like Frank played on it. Then Weckl came out, and Brandon Fields played on my record, and then I got to meet some of the local LA musicians, and they're like, nah, I think you might be better, you know, down in LA. So I had a fusion band here before I moved to America, and we supported Planet X on their tour here. We supported also the Dave Weckl band, and then any other local, you know, fusion bands that were around we would support. So I got to meet a lot of those musicians, as I said. And then LA it was, and I didn't want to be anywhere else.
And the weather is unbelievable. So
I miss it.
I bet. How long have you been back now?
It's 2 years. 2 years on the 25th of July. So 2 years a few weeks ago. Yeah, and it's really weird because it took a year. I laid low key for a while because with my family, I didn't know where I wanted to set up shop here. So came back and, you know, just did a little bit of teaching, not too many gigs, but then we bought a house. I moved, you know, I got to build my studio. So, and then COVID happened and, you know, we're trying to deal with that. But I'm all ready and set up, ready to go. Last thing you want to do, Neil, is you get the phone ringing and say no, because you only got one chance to say no for whatever the reasons are. So I didn't want to be in that position. But now I'm ready to go as soon as COVID is done. Whether it's gigs, touring, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I hear. I've been fortunate to do a few outdoor local gigs and where I live, but I play a lot of theaters and I play in an Abbott tribute, and we are down probably 70, 75 shows this year. But we have other things to be grateful for, a lot of things to be grateful for. Let's do a side turn here, and I want to ask you about Gretsch drums. When did Gretsch drums enter your life?
All right. So obviously I've known about the drums all of my adult life and knew how good they were. Never was able to afford one because they were pricey. They were pricey in this country. But even back then, I didn't even really know who a distributor was here.
Okay.
Just never really knew. A few years back, I was doing some work at DW for the drum channel.
Yeah.
They had there's a show, or there's a contest called Hit Like a Girl contest. I think I've said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was a judge and part of that, and we started doing some video promos, and so I was with David Levine and Don Lombardi, and absolutely loved DW drums, loved everything about it. I was a Mapex endorsee for 11 years.
Wow.
And then I think it was 2016 or 17. No, 2015. I just parted ways and played nothing. Just played whatever I had. And then through Don Lombardi, we started speaking, and then word got out that, you know, that they had an interest on, you know, Gretsch drums and all that kind of stuff. And I knew that if I had the opportunity to play one drum kit, this is going to come out wrong, but I know I'm going to get hate mail. I didn't want it to be DW, but I loved Don Lombardi, and I love everything that company stands for. And when they brought Gretsch drums, I said, I need to play this drum kit. I need it. I need to hear it. And you know, if it feels anything like what it sounds like, I want to play it. So that was about 3 years ago now.
Beautiful.
About 3 or 4 years ago, Andrew Shreve.
Yeah.
You know, I started speaking to Andrew. I said, look, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to play.
Yeah.
I had some students in the past where I would go and teach them home lessons, and they had like the Catalina Birch kit. And I remember hitting this bass drum, like, oh man, I want that bass drum. Apart from the last few years, I've always mixed and matched my drums. Always.
Wow.
Always done it. So so back in the day, if I was playing Mapex drums, I would mix and match, always still a Mapex drum, but it could be either an M series bass drum or a Saturn series tom or whatever. I just did it because that's what it felt like. But this is the first time in a long time that I don't mix and match nothing.
What's that? What's the kit behind you there?
That's my, oh, don't want it to drop, but that's my Brooklyn. I've got a Brooklyn there, and then I got to the side of that, I've got a Catalina.
Yes.
Yeah, so hang on, don't fall. Okay, yeah, so the Brooklyn kit is amazing. It gives me everything I want. It's punchy, it's roomy, it's airy, it's everything. 6-ply maple.
What are the sizes?
Northern maple. Just they're all standard. It's 8, 10, 12.
Okay.
Then I got 14 by 14, 16 by 16. They're probably a little bit shallower toms than what I've played in the past.
Yep.
I went for those sizes on purpose.
Yes.
Basically, so I can set them up a little bit lower on next to the bass drum.
Yeah.
And look, easy. They tune easily. You know, we'll talk about maybe drum heads in a sec, but they tune easily. What I like about the toms is that they have the 5 lugs. Right, I don't know.
Unique to them for sure.
It is, and the 30 degrees bearing edge on that kit sounds amazing. Well, obviously played 45 degree drums or 45 degree bearing edges most of my life, and it's a beautiful sound. It is, but if you want something a little bit different and a little bit more warmer, you know, it just makes sense. Just makes sense to get like a 30 degree. Yeah, more wood, more wood on that drum head just makes it warmer. And that kit there, that Brooklyn, I can play it anywhere. With the right heads, I can play it anywhere and for any occasion. If I want to do a rock gig, I can get a lot of volume out of that kit. And the drums, the tom sizes sound bigger than what they are. They're not shallow toms, don't get me wrong, but they sound a lot bigger for what they are.
Mm-hmm. What are the drum heads of choice?
I'm an Evans endorsee, and I have been playing Evans for a long time now. I got introduced to UV ones coated a few years ago, and I didn't know that they had come out. What a great all-round drum head. They're coated. What makes them unique is the powder coating or whatever that they use on it is pattern, and it's the most consistent on all over the drum head. So if you play brushes, you can swish anywhere. It's very consistent, but it's a 10 mil head, and it gives you everything. It gives you bite, punch, body, tone, resonance, the whole lot. Prior to that, I would go for G1s and G2s.
Right.
So if my gig was, if I did like more of an instrumental type of gig, I would use G1 coated, single ply head. The G2 clears if it was a bit more heavier, maybe if it was a rock gig, and the same thing goes for studios as well, right? So I always have the same approach. They're the drum heads I use, and just the standard EMAD, not too thick. And then I'll do that, but my drums ring. I love room mics. I love overhead mics. As much as I like a tight sound, I like my drums to ring. If I go to a studio session, I'll bring some gaffer and I'll bring some moon gel, but they're not on my kit to start. They're not at all. So we'll let the engineer dial it in as best as he can. And then if it requires a little bit of dampening, we do it, but not much. And I think you get away with dampening if you choose the right heads.
Yes.
You can get away with it.
Great.
If I want something really thick and just thump and just like old school Beatles, just thumpy, like kind of muffled, but it's the wrong word, right?
Yeah.
Just something that doesn't ring. I'll use the Onyx heads, the black ones. They're really thick, but man, you get some great body and some great resonance out of those heads too. But then that's it. That's as thick as I'll get. Wow. And I've never been that guy, the one that plays the same head top and bottom.
Right.
Never done it. I think I might have tried it once. It didn't work for me, and I don't know why. And I haven't gone back. So it's always my bottom my bottom head is always one ply and the thinnest it can be.
Yep. Wow.
And then just on snare drums, I either use a G1 coated or a UV1. So it's the complete opposite. So I'll use a one ply head and just really smack it. Or if I'm going for something a little bit heavier, maybe a G2, but coated. I don't use clear heads on snare drums. I never have. I don't know why. Just
They're weird.
Never.
They're weird. Never. I remember seeing pictures of Neil Peart playing a clear head, and it was kind of interesting to see. But do you find that your Brooklyn kit can do it all, depending on the head choice and the tuning?
100%. 100%. It's the only kit that I can detune if I want to get like a bigger sound out of it.
Wow.
Or tune up a little higher if I want to get a certain sound out of it, whatever. It's funny, you can detune a drum kit to make it sound bigger, but you can't tighten it up to make it sound smaller. So it's not about the smaller part of it, but I haven't gone to a session with this kit and the guy goes, I need a bigger bass drum.
Right.
So it hasn't happened. So we get the right thump and tone and body out of it. And like I said, with the lugs, it's easy to tune. Your small toms have your 5 lugs. You got your 6 on your bigger toms, and it's just well rounded. I remember back in the day, there were drums with 10 lugs. What for? You don't need. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't need him.
yeah,
I get it on a snare drum, but no.
but not on a floor.
But there's an art to tuning, Neil. I never knew that. I never knew the art and the importance of tuning until I got to America. I remember one of my first recording sessions I did was at Paramount Studios, and I'm getting ready to do a record. And back then, I didn't have a drum kit. It was early on, and Virgil made me borrow his Premier drum kit that he had when he was playing Premier drums. So I used his Janista kit, the one that he played on the Planet X records.
Okay.
And back then, I thought I knew how to tune drums. So I'm like, I know how to tune my drums. I know how to get the best out of what we got. And the guys on the record, they hired a guy called the Drum Doctor.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what the hell that was. And it was Ross.
Yep.
And God bless him. And but I'll never forget, this guy got paid so much money to tune my drums. And the engineers were like, this is amazing. And I'm saying to myself, it doesn't sound too different to what I did. You know what I mean? But there was an art for it. So it opened my eyes on how many people don't know how to tune their drums.
Yeah.
Right? And the importance of it. So I learned really quick. And then, I started getting sessions. I started getting hired by record companies in the States. They used to hire my drum kit. And I used to go out there and tune them for big sessions.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous. I wouldn't believe it. And, because I did it, you learn it. But that's something else completely. It's amazing. But I'm like, I don't understand how a drummer cannot know how to tune a drum. It's like, it's like a guitar player not being able to tune his guitar. You kidding?
Yeah. It's intimidating to a lot of younger drummers. I had a student yesterday saying,
yeah,
my drums don't sound good, Ken. I'm like, bring them, because I love tuning and I've learned a lot from tuning, and I listen to what the front of house guy might tell me to give me feedback. And of course, now I've been recording the last few months here. I'm new to that, and I think I'm on the right track with getting some good drum sounds. Again, let's go back to when you were in California. I have a note here. It says you taught Steven Adler, from the original drummer Guns N' Roses, and I want to know about that.
All right. So the way it happened was, I got a call from a friend in Australia, actually. And he's like, hey, listen, do you know Steven Adler? I'm like, sure, of course. And he's like, well, he's looking for a drum coach. He hurt his back, and he hadn't been playing for a while, and he wants to get back into it. Do you want to go teach him? I said, yeah, I'll give it a go. And he's like, all right, but just be aware, Stevie, and you can't. It's not that you can't tell him what to do, but if you don't click with Steve, that's it. You're gone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But if you click with him, he's a friend for life. And I'll never forget. He came down to my studio in North Hollywood. There was a couple of drum kits there, and as soon as he met me, he just came straight up to me, gave me a big kiss. He's like, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "Oh, bloody hell!" I said, "Well, let's just. I want to hear you play." And he's amazing, man. He's got his swing, his feel, his technique, everything that comes with it. He's still got it, and he's always had it. He just needed some guidance and maybe some brushing up on some things that he already knew.
Yep.
But then I also really pushed him, and we would do some technical things that'll make him play faster or make him play around the drum kit better. Gave him some more finesse, introduced him to some double bass drum stuff that he ended up using for a little bit. And his so-called comeback show that he had in America was at a place called the Knitting Factory, I think it was, before it closed down. And he came out, and there was like 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people, and everyone was there to see him play. Everyone. Actually, I think Slash was playing next door. It was at the Roxy or something. But he came down for the set. And Steven hadn't played like this in ages. Aww. So on and off, I coached him for 4 years. Wow! And it was unbelievable. And I even went to one of his last shows that he did before I moved back. and he was incredible. And this sums up how much of an influence he had for drummers all around the world. The Foo Fighters were rehearsing across the road from where Stevie's studio was in North Hollywood. We had a session at Stephen's studio. We're finishing up because I used to pick him up. I used to drive and pick him up, right?
Sure.
And we finished the studio session. We're walking outside. Taylor Hawkins comes out, and he goes, "Stevie," he goes, "Man," he goes, "I still listen to your record every day."
That's wonderful. Yeah, what a big influence on drummers, right?
Sorry?
What a big influence he had on drummers, for sure.
Mate, yeah, and he still does. I mean that record has sold, what is it, 80 million copies or something ridiculous like that around the world, and everyone knows it. It's in one way or another, everyone knows the songs. They may not know it's Stevie playing, but they know the songs. And to see Stephen come back and do some gigs with Guns N' Roses, in the last couple of years was fantastic. So he got up and did some special guest stuff. It was great. I think deep down inside, he wanted it. Obviously, he's documented that and he's made it very clear that he wanted it. But was he ready to do it? And he came back, and everyone rooted for him.
That's good.
That just because he's a good bloke though.
Wonderful story.
Yeah.
You actually did a double bass book with the drummer that replaced him in Guns N' Roses. Amazing Gretsch artist, Mr. Matt Sorum.
Yeah, Matt's unbelievable, and Matt's completely different to Stevie. So Stevie, he didn't really have drum lessons back in the day. He just grew up, played. He was in high school. I want to play in a band, whatever. But Matt's trained. Man, that guy can play in a different way. He's very clean, and then he's a master musician. He can sing, he can play guitar, he can produce, he can record. And the way he tackles his drums is the way he tackles his drums is the way he tackles anything that he does with music. And I got talking with Matty, and because through the Stephen Adler circle, you meet all of these people. You meet you meet your Slash, you meet Matt Sorum. But then I started doing gigs with Teddy Zigzag. So Teddy was the keyboard player for back in the day with G&R, and then his bass player was Johnny G, who was in Slash's Snake Pit. So all of these gigs we started doing together, and then Slash will rock up to a gig and give me a guitar, we'll start playing, and all of these guys would just come out. So with Matt knew what I was doing with Stevie, and we were just speaking. And then we got hired, both of us got hired to do an Australian drum clinic tour here, which didn't happen. It didn't happen, but it brought us closer together, and and we started hanging out, started playing drums, and he's like, "Show me that double bass drum stuff you could do," and I used to show him stuff, and he's like, "That sounds great." And then I'll never forget, I sent him a few exercises on what I was doing, and he's like, "This is great." He goes, "This is what I'm working on," and then we came up with the book.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was good. And that was a few years ago now. I can't remember the exact year, but I think it's about 6 or 7 years old at least.
That's really cool. I'm not
at least
much a double bass guy, but I'm interested in checking that book out too, because I do have a double pedal, and I love that stuff. I love learning all kinds of new things. What did you do gig-wise with Slash, with Nuno Betancourt and Billy Sheehan? Did you
just recording sessions?
Oh.
They were recording sessions.
That's cool.
The only live gig that I've ever done with Slash was just a benefit concert for Rock Nation. So for like these kids. Kids music school. So that's the only thing we did live, but recording, we worked on this benefit album, and he got to play a song. It was a cover of Police songs, so he did a song called "So Lonely."
Oh
yeah, it's
really
fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of players on that record. There was Fergie. Well, Fergie sang on it. She sang "So Lonely." Then Santana was on it, Rob Thomas, Glenn Hughes.
That's cool.
In Vogue, Beth Hart. Yeah, so I got the album right here, but it hasn't been released yet. Can you believe that?
That's amazing. Wow, what a resume. And did you ever figure that going to America that things would turn out the way that they did? I mean, of course you expected something because you're positive.
No, look, you always wish and you always dream it'll work out the way you want it to. And in certain ways it did. I mean, no, I never thought as a kid growing up that I would ever share the stage with Slash at all, or even record something, or just have a piece of music that's going to be with everyone for the rest of their life, and knowing that it's you and him and anyone else. Sometimes I pinch myself.
That's amazing.
And there is some feeling of fulfillment, but I guess working with guys like that, it did bring me to the to the place of, I think I want to move back to Australia, because what it did for me, it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes in this way. It made me realize that after 18 years, I want to work in Korea, in America, or I want to work in Korea around the world. I don't necessarily need to be based in LA no more. Sure, if you're not there, the phone will ring less to a certain point. But if they want you, they'll get you. It's that simple. And with the way everything has moved, pre-COVID, so with technology and everything like that, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And I'm not talking about just teaching or recording sessions or whatever, but I'm at a stage now that I know that I can call people that I've worked with before and say, hey, I got this gig. Are you interested? And I'm talking about any A-lister that I've worked with. Wonderful. So that's a good position to be in. I'm blessed when it comes to that.
And you feel like you're home again, that you did what you wanted to do. You've raised up your profile. And people always knew that you were a great drummer, musician, and person in Oz. They didn't know it in America, and now people all around the world kind of know who.
Yeah, they're starting to know slowly.
Right.
Can you grow it quicker? Maybe, but it doesn't matter. I have an I want to grow my YouTube channel. There's so many things that I'm working on at the moment with my drum school, my online lessons, which have taken off because of COVID, which is fantastic. They've got a little bit more busier, but I think my YouTube channel and the music lessons, sessions, the ideas that I got, I love to give back, mate, and I want to give back as much as I can, because if you walk away from a gig or something feeling great, or getting inspired to buy someone else's book, let alone my book, I've done my job, and there's a lot more that I want to offer. So that's why I want to build that.
And your website is allrounddrummer.com?
Yeah, allrounddrummer.com. And
awesome.
And it's really funny. John Favicki is one of my good friends, great drummer from New York. And he's like, all round. He goes, don't you mean all around drummer? I'm like, no.
Not
I go, how many people have come up to you and they're like, what type of drummer are you? And I mean, how many times have you said, I'm an all-round drummer?
It's beautiful.
So that's where it came from. So I'm like, all-round drummer. Or I like that. And I'll never forget when I looked for the domain name to see if anyone registered. No one had it.
No.
And I'm like, my God, it's mine. It's meant to be. So it's
all around, and it's like, sorry, there is no website. And I'm like, and your site is really great too, by the way. So I encourage drummers, you want to learn something, allrounddrummer.com. And it shows you some snippets of the various things, and not limited to those things that are on video. Really good.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, not at all. There's so many books in my head that I need to get out. I don't think I will in this lifetime. but you just learn. And yeah, it's funny because Joel Rothman,
Oh yeah.
and I love Joel in his books and stuff like that. Guy's published and written, well, he's published 100 titles
Yes.
plus, but he's probably written hundreds of books. And sometimes I feel the same, where it's like, leave me alone for a couple of months till I can get this one out and get this one out. But they're all these ideas and books are coming out in different ways, whether it'll be a video lesson through YouTube or something like that. They'll probably come out in snippets, if you know what I mean.
Wonderful.
But brain's always ticking.
Same here. That is awesome. So that's where we can, people can find you on the internet, as well as your Facebook and your Instagram.
It's all Sam Aliano.
Yes.
Allrounddrummer.com. I think my Instagram, my Facebook, Sammy Aliano, because Sam was taken. I don't know. But it's really easy to find. You can get there all from one place and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, it's apart when COVID is finished, I think we're in good times. It's we're going to appreciate music a little bit more, especially live music. And I think one of the great things that it's done is that through technology, it's brought musicians closer together. And with this remote learning, it's made people think like, well, hang on a second. I don't have to have a physical lesson to get the best out of what I need or whatever it is. Like I can get it through something like this. So I think that's a real positive. And technology is only going to get better.
Yes.
I heard Don Familaro say this. Is like, man, I can't wait till one day to have a 360 hologram around your studio, and then you can get to see everything. And it's just, it'll go there one day.
That's not too far in the future, I would bet. I mean, we go having latency now to, well, I had a lesson with Dave Weckl in June, a Zoom lesson, and that was great. I watched him play, and he had 4 camera angles, and his drums sounded amazing, and he was articulate and honest, and he was wonderful. But I try and jam with some of the bandmates I play with, and we can't do it because of the latency and whatnot. So that technology hasn't happened and perfected. Man, Sam, you've been unbelievable. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to dig into that book once we get things moved from this drum room here to the finished garage outside. And man, I'm telling you, I can't wait to practice that material. And thanks. I really appreciate you.
No worries.
I will post a link of this interview on Facebook, and also a link to you, so you can do with it what you like. Post it on your YouTube. I'll post it on my YouTube. And
thank you.
It's been amazing. And
now, look, thanks for having me on. I love talking drums. I love meeting new people. I love promoting the product that we endorse.
Yes.
Actually, I just noticed that there's a guy called Eric Kritzer on.
Yes.
Eric, I used to teach his son Sammy, and Eric's a great drummer too. And he's got a Gretsch drum kit, an original. I think it's the what do you call it? The most famous one. I'm going blank now. I can't believe I'm going blank.
Around Gretsch era kit, do you mean?
Yeah, it's about 30 years old or something.
Okay.
And it's but it's like a classic. It's like one of their classic, not the Brooklyn, the
USA Custom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but the old vintage one. You got to see it. This bass drum, I've hit that bass drum, and it sounds.
I would love
huge.
Some pictures of that. If you could post it on your timeline or something, man, we'll share that for sure.
We'll see if we can get out of him, because I picked my color because of his. He had a red one, so I got mine.
Oh, I love. I love old Gretsch drums. I love new Gretsch drums. All right, thank you, mate. I appreciate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Everybody, take care. Tune in next Friday. It's going to be Friday next week for another incredible guest. And thanks, Mr. Sam Aliano. AllRoundDrummer.com. Take care, everybody.
Cheers, mate. Bye.